Yes, we're back. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Simply Amazing. You're simply the best.
Oh, now we're upgrading?
Better than all the rest. The fact that I haven't really sang much yet in this podcast is astounding because I love to sing so much.
It's quite the feat, but you're slipping, and it's great. Keep slipping.
Shut. Anyway, I am Lisa, aka the OG Nocturne, and I'm going to turn it over today because we have an amazing topic we're going to be talking about to my beautiful, fabulous co-host.
What's up, everybody? This is Lauren, your friendly neighborhood bye. In case you didn't know, the other day, this week, the 11th, I believe, October, was National Coming Out Day. So that's really awesome. I just wanted to touch on that because that's especially important to me personally. So anybody that is, anything but straight, basically, anybody that has come out or is struggling to figure it out, or has your own identity and doesn't feel the need to come out, whatever it is for you, you guys are all, as we say, simply amazing. Today I personally want to talk about where Kurt comes from, because if you look at Kurt now, he's very different than he was when he first came out, and even when he first came out, he's a lot different than how he was originally designed. And a lot of people don't know that.
That is, yeah, and that's the interesting thing is like when you're talking about where Kurt's come from. It's funny because like you're saying that, and it's like I bet everyone's like, wait a minute, didn't we just talk about that? Well, we talked about his parentage in the last episode, right? But this episode, we're going to talk about his origin as far as like behind the scenes.
Yeah, his original design, because if you think about other characters, a lot of times the character you get is typically not how they started. That's not the original sketch, and that's not even the original interpretation. And a lot of people will try to credit Claremont for Nightcrawler's original design, and Claremont obviously is a huge part of it, but he was not. Nightcrawler is not Claremont's child, even though Claremont, to my knowledge, loves him a lot as well, which is clear. But actually, Dave Cockrum is the one who created Nightcrawler, and funny enough, Nightcrawler was not originally created for Marvel. Like, how wild is that? Like, Nightcrawler could have not been an X-Man.
I love that story. I love it's amazing when you think of what Dave Cockrum did, and it's funny, so many characters are created by so many of these people, and we look at this and we think back to when a lot of these characters were created, and we think that like so much like that every single one of our favorites had a lot of like love and care. Like when you go to Build-A-Bear and they have you like kiss the heart and you put the heart in, and it's like every one of our favorite characters has that little heart kiss and put in. No, some of our characters were literally just a sketch that, like, for example, Mystique's origin story, like Dave Cockrum drew a blue girl and like put it on his wall. And one day, Chris Claremont saw it and was like, can I have her? And that's how Mystique happened. Literally, that's Mystique's origin story. So it's like, but Nightcrawler has a much more, there's a lot more to him because Dave Cockrum, when he created him, like, he really connected with this character. And like, so for Nightcrawler, like for Mystique, she was just created and it was just a blue girl, and Claremont took her and made her into something else. Nightcrawler, though, was a character that was so close to Cockrum's heart that he was like, come hell or high water, I'm going to find a way to shove this guy into a comic book. And he tried several times, like you were saying.
And so for those of you that don't know, I'm going to go a little bit on the history factual side for a second, because I think this is important to know, especially for people that are like, oh yeah, I know who this blue guy is and Kurt's cool, but like I'm not really invested in him. We're going to start building that investment, everybody, because when Dave Cockrum originally created Nightcrawler, it was not for the X-Men, it was not for Marvel. It was actually for DC.
Can I pause you for one? sorry, can I pause you for 1 second? Because there is a story that predates that about when he created Nightcrawler, about when he was in Guam. Did you see that story?
In Guam, I don't know that one. No.
No, yeah, that like Dave Cockrum, like I said, he's always had a soft spot for Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler has always kind of been his self insert into the comics, and at his earliest incarnation, Nightcrawler was this weird character that popped into his head when he was in the Navy and stationed in Guam, and he just woke up one day during a typhoon, and it was too bit noisy to go to sleep, and he was like, I'm just gonna start like making a character up, and he came up with this idea of this Nightcrawler guy who was a demon from hell, and that's where it started. Now this is like way back in when he was still stationed in the Navy, way before he even started with comics, and it's incredible to think that this character was in his head starting from there, and then like you said, DC, and then everything else.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild, that it just started kind of just out of nowhere, and that Kurt, like you said, started there, and he's gone through so many different incantations, I guess, for
Yeah,
lack of a better word. So many just like different versions of himself, before they got it right. I guess you could argue, right, if
yeah,
you
absolutely.
like him that way.
I think we do like him that way.
Yeah.
I like him that way.
I mean, and we'll talk about this in the future. There's some stuff about Kurt's character today that I'm like, that's not the way I would have preferred it to go. But overall, yeah, I like him the way he is in theory with his characterization. It's really important that way. But what's so interesting is that, yeah, like you said, with the starting and with in Guam and everything, and then that evolved into Cockrum basically trying to, throw a pitch to DC and saying, "Hey guys, so I want to make the designs for the Outsiders team." And I mean, when Dave Cockrum made the designs for the Outsiders, he went all out, like by making these people like
Oh
outsiders,
yeah. Oh yeah.
like he didn't do the whole like, oh look, like they can pass as humans, but like they just got these weird powers that people don't know about. He was like, no, no, they all look different, they even sound different. I mean, they're wild. And so when Dave Cockrum originally designed Kurt, he was supposed to be part of this Outsiders team for DC. Um,
Absolutely. And
and he was so differently designed. Like, I mean, even just looks wise.
yeah, he was a very different character for sure in The Outsiders. His attitude was very different. He was a lot, when Cockrum originally designed him, he was a lot less fun loving. He was more of kind of a jerky character. I think.
Oh, I've got some specific words here he used.
Okay.
So this is from his original pitch. He typed on a typewriter, it looks like, from the original page.
I'm looking at
And
the same
he,
thing. I think yes, typed on a typewriter. Hello,
yeah,
1970s.
it's one of my favorites. Yeah, he wrote that Kurt is a paradox as he has the attitudes and personality of a really rotten villain type, but chooses to aid the law. He uses too much energy when he teleports, so he doesn't teleport often, which is very different than how he uses his powers now. Um, Let's see. He has a very sardonic sense of humor. This is the part that cracks me up with this characterization is he wrote he would think a truckload of dead babies was hilarious. Like absolutely wild. Completely different than Kurt
Oh
now.
yeah.
Like Kurt would never laugh at dead babies. But I'm just picturing this other version of Kurt where he just start cracking up and it cracks me up.
I'm looking at the same thing too, and it says too his real name is Belshazzar, and he's an alien from a parallel dimension. Which I mean, Chuck Austin kind of did that when he did the Draco. I don't want to talk about that anymore, but
But he did it, but no, it was done terribly. Like this, I mean, honestly, I don't hate the real name. Like it's obnoxious, but I don't hate it because I feel like I'm one of the few people that actually likes embracing Kurt's like demon side. Not because I want him to be evil, but because like that's a part of him. Like just because you're demon doesn't mean you're evil. Like that's
mhm.
some biblical Christian shit. Like knock that off. There's nothing wrong with him being a demon. Like I think that's cool about him.
I like this little note at the bottom that says hisses his s's when he sleeps.
That cracks me up.
I love it. It's written in it's written in.
It's an extra. It's an extra idea he like forgot to originally type. He's like, oh, I gotta get it on here though.
Yeah, it's like this is super important. Speaks. I love that. That is so great.
Yeah.
But sadly, yeah, sadly the outsiders weren't picked up. And honestly, the outsiders, Kurt was not the only idea that came from the outsiders that made it to the
No, he
X-Men. Kurt is
wasn't.
just
Uh
it's just
one of the
yeah, Kurt is just the only like character, fully
I
formed
mean, well,
character that made it from the
so
outsiders to the
yeah, I
X-Men.
mean, so Kurt and so overall appearance wise and everything, Kurt is was the most easily translated over because the main differences they did for him when they brought him instead to the X-Men were I mean, even his costume here for the Outsiders is so similar. He's even got the X on his chest, like with the X-Men. But what they
Yeah.
did was so they had his more his the shape of his face wasn't as round. It looked more alien like in terms like more triangle shape. And then he was hunched over. He was hunched over like a little demon guy, just being all weird and creepy. But past that, they, changed those two things and then they changed his personality. But other than that, his main design was pretty similar. Whereas, like if you look at other characters here, like, you have Black Cat and Trio, who are some other characters that were supposed to be on this team, and the Powers of Typhoon, a lot of people will be like, oh, so they took these characters, these like three characters or some of their traits and threw them together and he made Storm. So
Yeah,
absolutely
very much
wild.
so. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I think, and this, so let's, I hate to say this, but like taking Kurt out of the picture completely, which I mean, this is the Kurt podcast, but like just looking at this and looking at this old Outsiders artwork and then taking this and then looking at what became Giant Size X-Men #1, it's really, truly incredible to just look at the artist process and to see where, ideas originate from and then where ideas become. For those of you who don't know, I'm also a big art nerd. I'm an art dealer by trade. So I love seeing like the insides working of the artist and how it works. And it doesn't matter if it's fine art or comic art or illustration, whatever. But I find this fascinating. And it's incredible to me to think that, like, yes, Nightcrawler was a fully formed idea that Dave Cockrum had in his mind that was like, I'm going to make this. And this, like, he had this idea since Guam. Like, he was going to make it work. But Storm came as an like, kind of an amalgamation of these other ideas he had, which I just find it fascinating.
It
Anyway, that's a
is.
little
Yeah,
storm
no, and I
sidebar.
mean that is important because literally, so Cochran designed this team, said DC, here you go. DC said, nah, B, no thank you. And so him and Claremont ended up connecting, right? And Claremont said, hey, I kind of want to use that with, the new version of the X-Men I'm trying to do, because originally the X-Men book before Giant Size X-Men was nothing. Like it really was not popular. And,
Well, yeah, it got canceled. It got canceled. It was in reprints for years and years and years until Cockrum and Len Wein wrote Giant Size X-Men #1,
that's
and
right.
then
Yep. Yeah.
immediately Claremont took it over to
Yeah.
basically turn it into the amazing
Yeah, and I
juggernaut
can't
it is
forget Len
today.
Wein, that's right, I keep forgetting to name him, which is really bad on my part. Cause yeah, he was such a huge part in it as well, especially with Kurt, but yeah, and so
He was the transition, I think, from he wrote Giant Size X-Men, but I do not believe he stuck around. I
right,
think
right.
it went
Yeah, because Claremont eventually,
almost
yeah, came in right
immediately went to
after.
Claremont. Yeah.
Yeah, but he
Mhm.
still had that
So,
role of, doing that transition and stuff, and, without that, things could have gone a lot more awry. I mean, Giant Size X-Men is such an important book for many reasons. But yeah, I mean, it's just so funny because, yeah, Kurt could have ended up being such a darker character, and he could have been a DC character. He would have never been an X-Men if DC had said, "Oh, we'll take that." And it's even funnier because a lot of DC fans, they give DC credit because they're like, "Oh, DC does the darker stuff while Marvel doesn't." The Outsiders apparently was too dark. DC said no because they felt the Outsiders was too dark. So DC fans, and I still enjoy my DC too, but DC stands that think, "Oh my God, they always do dark stuff." Nope, DC said that was too much, and so they did the other Outsider stuff they did. Kurt started out with the technically being on the Outsiders, and then once DC said no, Cockrum still wanted that character to be used, and he went to Marvel and Len Wein and especially Claremont and said, "Hey, what about this character? Can I bring him over here? And oh, maybe this character I could make into another character for you. The way they made Storm out of these other characters." That's so important because you have to be able to process these characters so that they can work. So even if Cochrum's true dream was to have Nightcrawler in the way he originally created him, at least he still got Kurt in some way that was good. Right. So even if, Cockrum was still alive and he said, yeah, the way Kurt isn't my favorite right now, I want him this way originally, but I still have him this way and this is still good. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think that's the biggest thing here is making sure we don't forget where these characters come from. That's why we're talking about it, because it's just so utterly fascinating. And once Kurt came to Marvel and he came to the X-Men, it was funny because when he was originally in, the in Giant Size X-Men, we'll talk about that. He still looked kind of more demonic than he does now, right? Like they still kept more of the devilish, for lack of a better word, features. But they still made his personality so much lighter. So maybe not as light as today, but was still lighter in that he's like, hey, I'm a victim and I don't want to be. I want people to accept me, which is completely different than the
Yeah.
character who was laughing at dead babies.
Oh yeah. Well, it's this is where you have just collaboration and where collaboration really starts to kind of create true, long lasting like legendary things. And that's why I think, Nightcrawler and a lot of the X-Men and a lot of just comic book characters in general just become so um iconic, is because you have so many people working on them and adding kind of their own little bits and pieces. But also at the same time, as fans, we all pick and choose what we decide. Like, we all pick and choose what we like from the character, right? We ignore what we don't like and we like what we like. So, like, for example, Dave Cockrum had no intention ever to make Kurt a religious character. Dave Cockrum himself was an atheist.
Mhm.
So that for him, when it went in that direction, for him, that was not that did not make him happy. However, as a creator, you have to understand, right? And they do, like once you've passed your creation on, it has its own legs. It's like having a child. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes your child goes off and disappoints you.
Well,
It's just the
yeah,
way it is. So,
these creations really are their babies, and Kurt was Cockrum's
yeah, for
baby.
sure.
We talk about
A
these are
100%.
these are creators that are still around that get to use them, but I don't think anybody, I mean, even somebody like me who loves him to death, I don't even think I could love Nightcrawler as much as Cockrum did, because I mean, he
No,
even
no.
in here he literally drew how to draw these X-Men model sheets to make sure fellow Marvel artists could keep the new X-Men's looks consistent and correct. And he has this big Nightcrawler one. And it's amazing because if you think about Kurt, he's one of the few characters that he's rarely had any costume changes. And he's never had one that's stuck. Like he's had a few costume switcheroos and all that, but none of them have stuck. They always go back to the red and black. And
Oh yeah.
how is it that, like, you have creators that, original looks iconic, but then somebody else makes a look that's just as iconic or maybe even better, right? But you just still respect the original. Cockrum created such a perfect look for Kurt, such a perfect original design that almost nobody wants to even dare touch that anymore. They're like, we've tried, there's just no point.
I would 100% agree. Like when you look at those original, I'm actually looking right now at my giant size X-Men on my wall. When you look at those original designs, like that original Storm design I would say the original Storm design is iconic. I would not say it is her iconic.
Yeah,
I mean, I would say her Jim Lee is probably more
yeah,
iconic than the Cockrum design, even though that's her original
yeah,
design. Like, I guess the Colossus is probably pretty iconic, but like, I mean, there's nothing like the Nightcrawler. Like, really,
yeah.
like it's perfection. It really hasn't been changed much in the past. What is it now? Almost 50 years
Hmm.
since he's been created. Almost 50 years. It hasn't been changed. And I mean, the biggest update, I guess, is the newest update to his costume, where he's got that duster hanging out and looking hot, and he's bringing sexy back.
As he should. Exactly.
He shouldn't be bringing sexy back because he never lost it.
He
So
he
that's my
just
point.
brings sexy back every time. Anytime he walks in a room, you're like, "Where'd the sexy go?" Oh, he brought it back because he's back. That's how it works.
Exactly. Like, he's here, it's sexy, it's happening, it's all there. Let's do it. I love it.
Yeah, and I don't know. I love the fact that his original design is still, even though it was very different to how he is now, right? It's the whole idea of him is still completely true to his idea now, which is, for lack of a better putting it, he is an outsider and he always has been, but now he's an outsider. His design evolved into not just being an outsider that's kind of just there and, being somewhere in the middle, the gray area, but he's an outsider that can inspire the good in others. And he is so
Oh
good
yeah.
and he has that. And I think it's amazing that even after, 50 plus years, that fundamental part of him has not changed despite everything else that's changed about him.
I want to point out really quickly, um, you have that how to draw a Nightcrawler
Mhm.
thing that he made. Um, so this is something that uh I really love in his how to draw a Nightcrawler is he is so specific
Mhm.
about the fact that the tail doesn't come out of the
He
bush.
is, because he knew people were gonna give him shit about that, and he's like, "Don't even try me."
Well, he's just like, I swear to God, if you draw his tail coming out of his butt, I will come to your house.
He
He's like making
literally
threats. Like,
I want people to get this wording right, because he didn't just say it doesn't go in his butt. He wrote, "The tail is connected to the base of the spine." It does not, and he bolds that part. It does not grow out of his ass. And he wrote, "The tail is prehensile," by the way, which is very important for me to know.
oh, listen, it's very important for a lot of. Listen, once we get to Simply Amazing After Dark, we'll be talking about that. Um, I want to point out this one too. When drawing 90 from the front, do not connect the tail directly to his crotch. You'll give the code Fitz and Joan Ramita ulcers. That's cute. That's very cute. Could you just imagine him with a big blue Ned Flanders esque dong, just donging around?
I
Like
just
that's my tail.
I no, I don't want that. Like, I'm all anyways, that's for after dark, but like
That's for after. We'll have to talk about that in. We're gonna have to talk about that when we get to that issue where Kitty and Ileana accidentally teleport his clothes instead of him,
yes, yeah. And I
and
like
he's
that he
all
calls him Nighty. I never hear him called that. Like, I've never heard that as a nickname for him, but he addresses him as Nighty a lot on here. Nighty has fangs, upper and lower, be subtle. Nighty's
yeah.
face is always in the shadows. Like, why did that nickname never become a thing? Because that's like cute as shit. I'm gonna start calling
It
him
is
that.
super cute. It's super cute, and it's like I feel like I've heard that nickname be used, but I haven't heard that nickname in like 20 something
Mhm.
years, which makes sense because I have not because Dave has been gone for almost 20 years,
Oh
so
my
that makes sense.
gosh.
But
Nightcrawler.
well, he passed away in 2006,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, which
actually,
makes me sad.
you know, you know that Dave gave Nightcrawler his birthday.
I did not know that.
Yes, so Dave's birthday is November 11th, and he actually gave Nightcrawler his birthday as well. So Nightcrawler's birthday is
I
also
love
November
that for
11th. We're
us,
gonna have to do like a
guys.
special.
National holiday on this podcast, November 11th. Be ready.
No, yeah, November. We're gonna have to do like a special for November 11th or something. We'll have to do like a special birthday
Yeah.
day. Oh my gosh, we'll have to do. You know what we'll do? We'll have to do a special covering the birthday issues because there's at least two birthday issues I
Mhm.
can think of
Yeah,
that we'll have to
maybe we'll
cover.
have to
So,
have some of y'all come on and, wish him a happy birthday and talk about like your favorite issues with him. I think that'd be fun.
oh my gosh, how much fun would that
Nightcrawler
be?
celebration.
Yes,
All right, guys.
absolutely.
Just be ready if you're listening to this. Feel free to hit us up on the Twitter and everything and let us know if you want to jump in and be a part of it. Early bird gets the worm and all that.
Early bird gets the Nightcrawler.
Oh, early bird gets the 90. Got him.
Oh, got it. There you go. Because the Nightcrawler is a worm, So it's so funny, actually. I grew up. So little Lisa aside, for those of you writing my biography of them, I grew up on an island. So there's a lot of fishing, and so I would always be passing places that have little signs being like Nightcrawlers for sale, and it's like, yes, girl, I'm coming. All
Yes,
right, I'll be there.
exactly. I'm
Nightcrawlers
right
for sale.
there. Like, you don't even gotta ask. Just say here, go. Oh, there anytime.
It's like Nightcrawlers for sale.
And I just gotta say, I'm just so freaking thankful that Cockrum wanted Nightcrawler to be a character so badly that he fought for any version of Kurt that was a good version of him, right? That he fought so hard. He brought him to Marvel. Um,
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think he's a fantastic character. Dave Cockrum did a great job creating him, and but like major props to all the artists and writers who have done amazing things with them over the years.
For
Like,
sure.
Chris Claremont, Alan Davis, Derek Robertson, Roberto, I can't say his last name.
Oh man, we should definitely have more episodes where we
Riley.
highlight all these other creators and what they did with him. That'd be really fun.
Oh, I mean, listen, we're going to be doing this podcast until I'm like 60 at least. So that's at least another 20 years. God forbid. I mean, everything. So we're going to be covering everything, everybody. So if there's something out there for those Kurt fans out there, those of you in Banff Nation, if you want to hear something, if there's something about Kurt that you absolutely love and you want to share it, let us know. Come, we'll have you on a guest, and we want to hear why you love Kurt.
We want,
or if you love
to be the Banff Nation podcast at this point. Like, let's make it happen.
Absolutely, let's make it happen. Or if you love any of the Wagner, Darkholm, Adler, any of them.
I was gonna say we did not forget Kurt's family, y'all. Do not worry. We can never forget the family.
Oh, we'll talk about his in-laws. Come over here and tell me about Remy's cats. I'll talk about it. We'll talk about everybody. We'll talk about but we're at a point now where we're just rambling. Right. So maybe it's time to say goodbye, everybody. But it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us again. You, as always, well, you can find me at the OG Nocturne. That's NACHTURNE. You can find the pod at Simply Amazing Pod. That's SIMPLYMAZING Pod. Those are both on Twitter. We also are on Facebook. We got a little Facebook group kind of called Nightcrawlers. You can come find us there. I've been posting some fun stuff there as well. We're going to probably do some like giveaways and stuff. I don't know. I'm ready to turn this into a Z Morning Zoo.
You know,
buy,
we gotta be like, we gotta be the Oprah of Nightcrawler stuff. You get Nightcrawler, everybody gets Nightcrawler.
There you go, girl. Girl, where can they find you?
Y'all can find me on Twitter and Instagram at friendlymBHDBI. You can find all my links on there on my beacon. But yeah, definitely come bother me. I scream about a lot of other stuff, but I'm pretty well known for thirsting over Nightcrawler on a daily basis, and I have no regrets about it.
Honey, same. I've been thirsty all over the place. I've also started posting a lot about Twilight Zone, so if you love Twilight Zone, come find me. And don't forget, everyone, do not forget you, yes, you listening right now in your car, pulled over on the side of the road because you were texting while you were driving. Shouldn't have done it. You are simply amazing. See you soon.